Yeah, it was, yeah.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Casa Grande City Council meeting for December 2nd. We'll call the meeting to order. Our first order of business is our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance, so please remain standing after invocation. I think we have someone from EAM, or at least Salvation Army, here tonight.
Yep, Mark Davey.
Mark Davey, would you please do the invocation for us? Hope I didn't catch you off guard on that.
It's my pleasure to pray with you this evening. Father, we come before you and just thank you for this time of year we have to celebrate the Christmas season, the birth of your Son. And we thank you, Father, for this community that we live in, this place that we call home, a wonderful place that we believe so much in and we value so much. And I thank you for the leaders who are here today, who are gathered to try and continue to plan and make decisions for the betterment of our community and to make it a safer and better place than it already is. I ask that you grant them with wisdom and guidance and patience, and that, Father, you just be with us and help us to love you, depend on you, and to be kind to each other as we always should be. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Davey. Thank you, Donna. So let the roll call show that everyone is here.
So noted.
Mayor McFarland, I would like to address the minutes and would like the move for approval of the City Council regular meeting minutes from November 18th, and accept for the record the Board of Appeals minutes from June 12th and the Historic Preservation Commission minutes from October 28th as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, the minutes from the past meetings are approved. Next item on the agenda is D, claims November 13th to the 26th. Anyone?
Mayor McFarland, I move to accept and pay the claims dated November 13th through November 26th as presented. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the claims are approved as presented. Next item on the agenda is meeting agenda approval. Any changes, Mr. Raines?
We have none, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, anyone on the council want to change things or move things? All right, then I'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion, one roll call vote of the council. There'll be no separate discussions of these items unless the council member or member of the public so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. Does anybody have anything you want to remove for open consideration? Anybody from the public? All right, seeing none, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Mayor McFarland, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Cortson.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McBride.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. Okay, next item on the agenda is item I, the award of contracts. We'll start with I-1 and our...
Wait, we forgot public
Oh,
comment.
I'm sorry. I blew right by public comments, didn't I? All right, back up. Next item is item H. And I do have a comment card here on and I should have known that by that. Is it Rodney Williams? Rodney, will you like to address the council? All right, please step forward, state your name and your address, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. And I just want to remind you that we can't comment on your comments because it's not an agendized item, but we can ask staff to take some action and or follow-up. Okay?
Thank you, Mayor McFarland.
You're welcome.
My name is Rodney Williams. My address is 2181 North Magdalena Place, Casa Grande. I am a resident here since 2008. And I just want to let everyone know here that I really appreciate the effort that you put into making this so absolutely fabulous place to live. I want to thank you personally. I've never had the opportunity to do that. I'd like to take the opportunity to do so currently. I have an office here on 418 North Marshall Street. Actually, Mayor McFarland was part of the grand opening of that business. It's a nonprofit. It's a registered 501c3. It's registered and has a business license with the city of Casa Grande. The work that we do, we help ex-offenders find work. We'd rather help them find work than to, live according to their own devices, because they might do things that might harm themselves or other people. And they're a very vulnerable group. And we find that the work that we do is very fulfilling. We have no donations or grants. It's, I do the best that I can. I go into the prisons every so often and speak to the inmates that come out. And I do my best to help them find work, and more than likely I do. It's just been brought to my attention recently, one of the fellow business owners on the street, that the officers of Casa Grande Police Department have been asking questions about me. The phone number to my business is right on the front window. I have never received a call. No one has ever left a message. And I find that very disconcerting and uncomfortable. And I asked them, were they inquiring about any other business on the street? And they said, no, just yours. I had a prospective employer come. She came at the wrong time. And as a result, she went to a couple of other businesses to find out if they knew where my whereabouts, or, And while there, she'd asked if they knew anything about my business, and they said, well, we haven't seen them much, but we know that the police have come by a number of times, and they've questioned my family and myself, and they've asked me a lot of questions. One of the owners said that I informed them that the phone number to the business is on the front window, and they says, well, the phone number is inactive. And I take exception to that because I have been paying the bill. The phone number is working. I'm very uncomfortable with this. I'm extremely uncomfortable with this. No one likes to be targeted, especially for a reason that they're not aware of. My information is public. It's right there on the front window. If somebody has any questions, they could dial a number and ask me any of the questions. I am a resident of Casa Grande, and I have been a resident since 2008. I'm accessible. So I'd like to state that if there's anyone who can pass this along to anyone who's interested in finding out about me or the business that I operate, that I'd be more than happy to entertain their questions. Thank you for your time. Continued success.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. We'll have staff follow up with you, and we'll get you an answer, okay? Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? Since this is a public comment section. Anyone? Nobody rush to the counter? Okay, seeing none, then I'll close the public comments and we'll move to item I1. Now it's your turn.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Aaron Walter presenting on behalf of Steve Hardesty, who couldn't be here tonight, for the request. Staff recommends the Mayor and the City Council to approve the purchase and installation of playground equipment and shade structures in the amount not to exceed $59,646.33 from Miracle Recreation. This purchase will utilize an approved cooperative purchasing agreement available through Sourcewell, formerly NJPA. And just kind of highlight some of the discussion notes in your packet of information. These improvements to Elliott Park have been identified and planned in the CIP for several years. For year 2020, the project was approved during the budget process. Funds have been available through the CDBG grant and the AK Chin grant. The total project includes a shaded ramada, a shaded playground, new playground equipment, ADA accessible parking, and sidewalks connecting the features. This contract only includes the shaded playground, playground equipment, and installation. The fiscal impact, the total amount again of this contract is a price not to exceed $59,646.33, with funding will come from the combination of a CDBG grant and an AK grant to fund this project.
So this is going to be funded by the OCGen and our CDBG money?
Correct, yep.
Okay.
I'm just so tickled
Yeah.
that that's happening for the south side.
Yeah, that's great.
We have paving coming and sidewalks and a lot of other things.
Parking too.
Yes, parking too. So I'm very happy that we're doing that and certainly support it. And I think it'll be
Good addition.
it really make them take a lot more pride in the community to live in there. So
Thank you, Mr. Powell. I'll pass that message along.
Yeah, absolutely. It's right. It's a good move. Anybody else?
Just glad to see it happening.
Yep. Okay. So I need a ordinance number, please, Gloria.
Ordinance number 3174, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting a bid from Miracle Recreation Equipment Company for the purchase of playground equipment, authorizing expenditure of public funds in an amount not to exceed $59,646.33, and authorizing the execution of a contract with or purchase order to Miracle Recreation Equipment Company.
Mayor McFarland, I move approval of ordinance number 3174 as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Can I get a roll call vote, please, Gloria?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Cortson.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McBride.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right. Next item on the agenda is I-2. This is considering a bid from Chapman Ford.
Thank you. Staff recommends that the mayor and city council authorize staff to execute a contract with Chapman Ford for the purchase of 2020 Ford trucks as needed to replace various vehicles as provided in this year's fiscal budget. In an effort to provide uniformity, we've been using the Ford platform for many years and plan to continue to use that. We did go out for a formal solicitation and received 4 bids, Chapman being the lowest responsive bidder. At the time we did this RCA, we were considering up to 11 pickup trucks of various sizes and types for different purposes. However, we do have another RCA. The next RCA covers the Tahoe purchase, and at the time we didn't know if we were going to be able to successfully purchase those Tahoes. So we were asking for permission to purchase up to 11 pickup trucks instead of the Suburban. So if we're successful with the Suburban purchases, we won't be buying 11 pickup trucks, we'll be buying 6. So I just wanted to point that out, but we do want the...
Chevy Tahoes or Suburban?
I'm sorry, did I say Suburbans? I apologize. Chevy Tahoes.
Okay.
That RCA will fire up and I'll remember. But so anyhow, we do want authorization not to exceed the $297,000 for the purchase in case we do have an issue with the Tahoes. So we want to have that authority if we need it moving forward. But again, if we're successful with that purchase, which is the next RCA, we won't be needing that.
So will it drop to 11 or 6, I mean, if you can get the 5?
Yeah, we're going to be purchasing 4 for PD and then 2 for the Public Works Department Engineering Division. And the other 5 were going to be the Tahoes if we're unsuccessful. But we're hoping we're going to be successful with that. And I'll explain that during the next RCA.
So you put some money back in the bank?
I'm sorry?
Never mind. Does anybody have any questions for Kevin? Okay. All right, seeing none, then I'll entertain an ordinance number, please, Gloria.
Ordinance number 3175, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting a bid from Chapman Ford to provide and deliver various model year 2020 Ford pickup trucks, authorizing expenditure of public funds in an amount not to exceed $297,000, and authorizing the execution of a contract.
Mayor McFarland, I move approval of ordinance number 3175 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I get a roll call vote for this ordinance number, please?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Quartson.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McBride.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, so I2 is passed. I3 then is to consider ordinance number 3176.
Thank you. Staff recommends that the mayor and city council award a contract to Midway Chevrolet in an amount not to exceed $188,655 for the purchase of 5 2020 Chevrolet Tahoe police pursuit vehicles. We did do a formal solicitation for these vehicles, and during that process, with some issues with Chevrolet, the order window for those vehicles was moved up. So we weren't able to get through our bid process and make that order in time to meet that deadline. And this all happened very suddenly with the GM strike. It also impacted our fleet's ability to maintain our vehicle maintenance team to maintain our fleet during that period of time as well. So huge impacts on us. So we didn't think we were going to be able to find any Chevy Tahoes to purchase this year. However, we did go out and we solicited several of the vendors, and we did find those vehicles, and they are at Midway Chevrolet, and we'll be purchasing those off of the state bid instead of our solicitation. So we've canceled our bid and rejected all those bids and notified those dealers. So funds for this have been budgeted through the police department in this year's fiscal year budget. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I do have one, I didn't ask it the last time. We do try and solicit our local companies.
It's in there.
Yes, we actually, we spoke to our local vendor, and they did submit a quote for us. However, it was not the lowest one.
Like it was like 3,000 per.
Yeah,
Okay,
31 now.
all right, thank you.
I would like to make a comment, not really a question, but I know I've heard comments and I've seen stuff on social media that is critical of the police department buying Tahoes for a patrol car. And I'd like to throw in that I understand the reasoning for having difficulty in finding them, but one of the other issues is that they're in very high demand. It is, in my experience, the ideal police patrol vehicle when you consider the necessity to be able to transport prisoners, a large amount of equipment, and the fact that they're pursuit rated, which simply means it's a two-wheel drive vehicle, but it's tested. Vehicles are tested annually, I believe, still by Michigan State Police. But it's simply the ability to go at fairly high speeds without rolling over. And all in all, the projected longevity of these vehicles, they hold up under the use as a patrol vehicle. You can put more miles on them, dollar for dollar, it's a better deal. And I just wanted to point that out for those that may think, why are we buying Tahoes? Just a comment. Thank you.
Okay. Matt?
On that too, is we tested we used the Holden platform, the Caprice, it's Chevy Caprice made in Australia actually. And we did that for a couple of years, and we found out the collisions totaled them pretty much, and they weren't big enough physically for officers with all their equipment on. So, we tried that, and the cost is not that much, especially with the longer use we get out of the Tahoe. But I did have one question, Kevin, since we go to all the F-150s, and I know this is a bigger question, F-150s for our fleet trucks. Did we look at the Explorer and the Expedition? The Explorer is a little bit smaller, and that's what DPS is using a lot of now, and then the Expedition is comparable to the Tahoe for our police units.
To be honest, I was not part of the effort to do the research on that new platform, so I really cannot respond to that, and I don't know if PD is prepared to respond to that tonight. I doubt it, because that was done quite a few years
I
ago.
remember they did a lot of research with the Tahoe to make sure that was the one we wanted, so I just wanted to let people know really that we did look into all the different options, and that was our best course of action for going on our roads here and off-road that they have to do a lot. So, thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and if I can address Councilman Herman's question specifically about the evaluation of the Expedition as a platform, and yes, it was a bit of the transition under the Ford products when they went from the Crown Vic, and there are several entities have elected to utilize them. In our case, as we evaluated the platform, as we evaluated the useful life, which we believe that and have tested that we're going to be able to get 7 years out of the Tahoe, and maybe without even a reconstruction of that on a cost per year that the Tahoe was more effective, which is what drove us to that platform. I think it's been about 3 years ago now.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Is I know there were definitely we evaluated everything just so everyone knows that we don't just decide one day that we're going to buy Tahoes this year.
Oh, yeah.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, then I'll entertain an ordinance number, please.
Ordinance number 3176, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting a bid from Midway Chevrolet for the purchase of 5 model year 2020 Chevrolet Tahoe Police Pursuit vehicles, authorizing the expenditure of public funds in an amount not to exceed $188,655, and authorizing the execution of a contract with or purchase order to Midway Chevrolet LLC in accordance with the terms submitted to the Arizona State bid list.
Mayor McFarland, I would move that we approve ordinance number 3176 as presented.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Can I get a roll call vote, please, Gloria?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes?
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Cortson.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McBride.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. Okay, item I4 is consider ordinance number 3177. Also yours, Kevin.
Yes, so staff recommends that the mayor and city council authorize a staff contract to purchase materials and services to upfit the 9 new police vehicles, as well as purchase necessary communications equipment. Staff did do a solicitation and only received one submittal for that solicitation. However, this is from MHQ, and MHQ, we've been using them for quite a few years and have been very happy with both the quality of the product and their service that they provide, as well as when we looked at the prices, we think it's very comparable to what we could get just on the open market. So we are asking to move forward with that upfit contract with MHQ. However, that's just part of the upfit total cost of these vehicles. The communications equipment is approximately $6,824 per vehicle, for a total of $67,067 for those 9 vehicles. And then the other equipment and upfitting, lights, radios, and those types of things is from MHQ, and that is approximately $19,000 per vehicle. And that does range depending on which vehicle and then the use that vehicle is going to be. Obviously, if we have just a patrol vehicle, that's one upfit, but if it's a K-9 vehicle or some other special unit, there are variations in that cost. So that $19,000 is an estimate. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, seeing no questions, then I'll entertain an ordinance on number I4, please.
Ordinance number 3177, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting a sole source proposal from Motorola Solutions, Inc. for the purchase of 9 all-band portable radios, accepting a bid for a 2-year contract from MHQ of Arizona to provide upfitting services for police vehicles, authorizing the expenditure of public funds, authorizing execution of a contract with or purchase order to Motorola Solutions, Inc., authorizing an agreement with MHQ of Arizona, and authorizing the transfer of budgetary authority between accounts.
Mayor McFarland, I move approval of ordinance number 3177 as presented.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Can I get a roll call vote, please, Gloria?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes?
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Quartson.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McBride.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. But the next item on the agenda is J1. This is considering approval of the appointment of Melissa Yost Fuentes to the Historic Preservation Commission with the term to expire on August 1st, 2022. I don't think Melissa's here. If you are, raise your hand, Melissa. I don't see her. All right, well, first of all, we want to publicly thank her for volunteering for this position. And we doubled her pay, but she still gets nothing, so. Anyway, we do appreciate all of our boards and commissions and want to make sure that they know that we appreciate the work that they do. So I'll entertain a motion to approve Melissa.
So move.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve Melissa to the, Melissa Yost Fuentes to the Historic Preservation Commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so congratulations, Melissa. And then we'll move to item K, which is consider election of the Mayor Pro Tem K1. So I'll open the floor for nominations.
Mayor McFarland, I would like to nominate Lisa Fitzgibbons.
You want to second it?
I'm sorry.
I was going to say I want to congratulate Donna for what a job she's done.
There we go.
Yes.
So we double nominated.
Sorry, Rick.
And I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and, are there any other nominations I should ask? Okay, seeing none, then we'll close the nominations and then call for a vote. All those in favor of having Lisa take the Mayor Pro Tem position, I don't need to do a roll call, do I, on this? No. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
That was painless. Now, we do have a ceremony at this point in time. We're going to do the swearing-in ceremony now. So if you wouldn't mind meeting
Okay.
Gloria down in front.
Okay. Here, do you want me to go down there? I thought Donna comes. Can you get it?
You don't want the GIMP to do it. Are you going to do it down here?
I, Lisa Fitzgibbons, do solemnly swear
That I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the laws of the state of Arizona.
and the laws of the state of Arizona,
That I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same,
and defend them against all enemies,
and defend them against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of Mayor Pro Tem
discharge the duties of Mayor Pro Tem
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
So we'll switch at the next city council.
We'll switch at the next, gotta make a sign.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I took a ton of
Oh,
Congratulations, Lisa.
thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is K2, consider resolution number 5211. Planning and Development Director, Mr. Tice.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. James Gagliardi is going to make this presentation for you.
All right, James.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The request this evening is a subdivision variance for a block length located within G Diamond Ranch. A little bit of background information about that is last month Planning Commission approved a preliminary plat for some undeveloped area within the G Diamond Ranch PAD. The preliminary plat is for 318 lots. However, one of the areas within area D1 highlighted on the screen has a block that is longer than what the city code allows of 660 feet. It's actually measuring about 975 feet. One of the roles of city council in this case is to consider variances to block lengths when situations like this arise. And so essentially, should you approve the variance this evening, the preliminary plat that Planning Commission approved would be deemed valid, and they would be proceeding with a final plat reflective of that long block that would be going in front of council at some time in the near future. The specific block in question is located in area D1, as I had mentioned. And one of the reasons for having restrictions on the length of blocks is for a number of reasons. One, when you have an extra long block, you create a speed effect, a speedway with a straightaway on a local street. Also, as you can see from this picture, sort of a monotonous appearance. You don't see any sort of relief from an intersection or landscaping that tends to flank an intersection. And so from a design standpoint, it's not ideal to have an excessively long block. And then a third reason is emergency response concerns. When you have a long distance between intersections, there's a concern that if there's an accident at one intersection and emergency response has to go around to the next intersection, it's just an extra long time to get to a home, say in the middle of the block. Now, there's ways to improve long blocks in those situations. And I want to point out an existing long block that exists within the developed part of G Diamond Ranch. The existing long block is approximately 1,000 feet. And, staff finds that this, even though it does exceed that 660, is well designed because, for one, there's some traffic calming in that the street isn't straight east to west. There's a little bit of curve. And then also there's a mid-block pedestrian tract that cuts through it. So that breaks up the monotonous appearance, and it also provides access for emergency response. And then also there's varied housing product and design through the 2003 residential design standards that are in place to prevent that very thing with the monotonous appearance of houses. The block in question that's on the proposed preliminary plat that Planning Commission approved even more achieves those efforts to contend with that long block in the fact that this block is curved, so it does not create that straightaway that would generate in the speed effect. And it too is also providing a mid-block pedestrian tract that could serve as an emergency access route. There would be a sidewalk connecting the street to the northwest to the street to the southeast. And again, there'd be varied housing product and design. Here's an example of that very existing street in G Diamond Ranch, where you can see, even though it is a long block, the different styles of homes and the curve in the street help sort of mitigate that effect of an extra long street. Now, in order to approve of a subdivision variance, there's a number of criteria in the code that has to be evaluated and met. And staff and Planning Commission do contend that these have been addressed. Planning and Zoning Commission made a recommendation at its November meeting that City Council approve the subdivision variance for this block length as depicted per the preliminary plat. And that concludes my presentation.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, good explanation. So this particular block will have curve in it.
It's almost 90.
Okay.
Mayor? Mayor?
Yes, I'm sorry, Bob.
Here again, just a statement. I think as a council, we need to be very careful about granting these extended length roadways. I know at times in public safety, the police department will get tasked with trying to slow traffic down on a road that was designed, like you said, as a straightaway, and specifically as cut across traffic from one major street to another. You'll get people cutting through and trying to save a few or a minute or something. in their travel time. But I do think what you've shown us here, I don't see that potential for cut across traffic. I like that it's curved. I think it, for me personally, it covers those concerns. But as I said, I think as a rule, we need to be very careful about granting those variances.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, then I'll entertain a resolution number, please, Gloria.
Resolution number 5211, a resolution of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, approving the request from ESP Group, Inc. for a variance from the block length provisions of section 16.16.160 for the G Diamond Ranch subdivision.
Mayor McFarland, I move for the adoption of resolution number 5211 as presented.
Second?
Okay. Is anybody from ESP Group here? Oh, I'm just curious, are you going to do something with the land?
Yes, he's looking for home builders right now.
Okay. All right, we'll encourage him to do something with it. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Can I get a roll call vote, please, Gloria, on this resolution 5211?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Cortson.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
You've already been demoted.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. Okay. All right, the next section is on our public hearings. These are our public hearings, so what I'd like to do is have the presentation made, and then we'll kind of throw open to the public, and then if the council has questions, and we'll follow up with questions from the council, okay? All right, so the first item is L1, public hearing considering ordinance number 3173. Planning and Development Director.
Mr. Mayor, Laura Blakeman will be making this presentation for you.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. I am presenting tonight the Cougar Stadium Sign Historic Landmark Designation. So the historic designation regarding sign landmarks, the City Council tonight is being asked to grant historic landmark sign designation to the Cougar Stadium sign. This sign designation is part of the rewrite of the Historic Preservation Ordinance that was finalized in 2017. A little bit of history on the site location, the Carmen Nat Park. We do have an old aerial photo in 1958 of the Casa Grande area showing the Carmen Nat Park in existence. And prior to 1963, the Cougar alumni has stated that the original Cougar scoreboard sign was located on the east side end of the sports field. And the one that actually we've seen today and that exists today was originally on the southwest end and was relocated with the Carmen Nat renovations just on the north side of the sports fields. And here you can see the original designation in prior to 1963 on the east end, and how it's relocated to the west side.
It looks
Moving
better.
on, the next slide. So the Cougar sign facade history is the sign was originally painted by Ed White, which was a security guard and bus driver who actually came from California. The Cougar Stadium sign was repainted in 2018 as part of the Carmen Nat renovations, as I had mentioned. So moving on to this general plan policy, our 2020 policy, and our historic preservation ordinance. According to our general plan, the city shall acknowledge the importance of developing a strong base of community support for historic preservation efforts. It's the intent of the ordinance to provide a means to protect signs within the city of Casa Grande. Also, according to our ordinance, the code declares that a matter of public policy that the protection, enhancement, and perpetuation of landmarks is necessary to promote the economic, cultural, education, and general welfare of the public. Moving on to the historic sign landmark criteria, according to the methodology established with the Historic Sign Survey, the sign shall meet the following criteria: over 40 years old, displays a unique or novelty design, displays good integrity where most of the intrinsic elements of the sign are present, contributes to the context where the sign enhances the environment or associated property, business. In most cases, the sign would be in its original location. Based on this criteria, the Cougar Stadium sign falls under the criteria, except for the exact location of the original sign. Staff finds that this new sign location and does enhance the property with the newly renovated Carmen Knapp Park and renovations. The Historic Preservation Ordinance also has landmark designation criteria. As you'll see on your slide here, there's 6 criteria for landmark designation. According to the criteria above, the Cougar scoreboard sign falls under the criteria and meets most of the criteria. I will go over these criteria. The first criteria is that the sign possesses special character or historic or aesthetic interest or value as part of the cultural, political, economic, or social history of the locality, region, state, or nation. The sign's significance is tied to the Casa Grande Union High School's property with the school's activities, performances, and particularly the football games. Ed White, the security guard and bus driver, as I mentioned, from California, was the artist that painted the cougar on the sign. And in the 1950s, the Casa Grande Union High School football team won the championship. The sign is dated around 1960, and the Cougar scoreboard sign has been located on the property for over 50 years. The next criteria is that it embodies the distinguishing characters of any architectural style. The Cougar scoreboard sign was surveyed in 2016 by Motley Design Group. The sign was classified as a lighted scoreboard with twin I-beam supports and a steel box sign. The steel box sign included painted base and a light digital scoreboard and time board. The sign was recommended as an eligible sign landmark with the sign history and the age of the sign. The next criteria basically states that the owner is in concurrence with the historic sign designation. And as you all know, this is a city's property, and staff is in support of that. That concludes the review criteria. The public hearing notification was sent out, and staff has not received any public comments regarding this request. The Historic Preservation Commission recommended with a 5-0 vote that the Mayor and City Council designate DSA 19-00091, the Cougar Stadium sign, as a local historic sign landmark. And that concludes our public hearing, my presentation, and we're ready for the public hearing.
Okay. I'm going to open the public hearing first and then.
Okay, that's right, you go ahead.
Okay, so at this point, because this is a public hearing, this opportunity for the public to talk on this subject, which is recommending this local historic landmark sign that is in our current Carmen Knapp Park. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this matter?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. John McGuire, 1748 North St. Francis. Congratulations, Mayor Pro Tem. Not that I am anticipating any issues with this issue, but I did post it on social media, and lots of comments in favor of this. Since she didn't have any people that actually directly responded to her, I just figured I'd let you know that there was absolutely zero opposition from the social media world on this one. So I think that people are excited that it's going to become part of the history of the city. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Anyone else in the public? Okay, seeing none, then I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Powell, you had a question, comment?
Comment, I played on the 60 team, it was mentioned there, and it was captain on the 61 team. And people that have put on that Cougar uniform, it's really special, and it doesn't go away. You get older, but you still have good memories. You can run really fast in your memory, but you can't do it physically. As I say, I think it's real important. It's part of our heritage, and you had a quarterback that used to play there, yeah.
Please.
Well, I wasn't in a football uniform, but I was in a pom-pom uniform on that. that field many years ago, but I'm not going to say what years, but a long time ago. So it's hard to believe that it's a historic landmark. You know? That shows you how old I am. But no, it does make me proud, though. You know, when you look back, kind of like this building, you know, you think of the memories, and there's so many people. You know, John mentioned all the people that are positive. There's so many people that have been around the city for a long time and went to school here and were in the halls here in school and spent many years on those fields. So I'm just so glad we did preserve it and keep it there. So I really appreciate what you guys have done to do this.
Any other comments? Matt?
As someone who also played on the Cougar team about 33 years after Mr. Powell, but 93, I can attest for sure that's been there over 40 years. And I played a lot of time on that field, and I was captain too later on. A lot of memories there, and you know, a lot of people. And then if you go back to your criteria there, it's like slides, I don't know, you had a list of criteria that stuff had to meet. And there was one I took a little, you know, a little offense to, not offense, but yeah. Right before that, yeah. Historic personages, which we've had a couple of NFL players come, and good and very good college players come from Casa Grande Union High School. Specifically NFL, I know Randy Robbins, who's now the athletic director, and Stephen Trejo, who I played with. Coincidentally, the team was much better the year after I graduated. I don't know if that's related or not, but they did better that next year. But I did have a lot of good times there, a lot of good memories, so I'm really happy, like everyone else. Yeah, I know Dennis played, and then White, yeah, was a great quarterback. So we have a lot of historic personages locally that are identified with it. So I'm just making fun, but yeah, I mean, we really did. So I think that's an important thing because it means a lot to a lot of people that grew up here. So I'm proud to call it home and glad to see we're doing this.
I wanted to echo Matt said about we're very proud. I too went to high school here. I didn't wear any kind of uniform, but
you did later.
Yeah. Nonetheless, I wanted to do some audience participation because I think we've got several Casa Grande Cougars alumni in the audience. Would you raise your hand? And yeah, thank you guys. Yep, there's a bunch of us in the room, so thank you.
Notwithstanding those up here on the dais.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay,
32
So any
years
other?
ago.
so I'm married to a former quarterback of a Cougar, but I also am very proud that I have two grandsons that have played for Union, and one of them has really done outstanding and that. So these are the sort of things that add personality to our community. You can build beautiful, shiny parade and everything else, but when people come to visit and want to live here and that, they look for character. And if this isn't character, I can't tell you what is. So I'm really pleased with how it all came out.
Agree.
All right, any other comments or questions?
Just, we had a lot of characters on the team in 60s.
I'm sure you did. I have a feeling.
Sure of that.
One notwithstanding.
I like this.
All right. So, hearing no other comments, then I will ask for an ordinance number, please, Gloria.
Ordinance number 3173, an ordinance of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, designating the Cougar Stadium sign as a local historical landmark and authorizing the city clerk to record all documents necessary to effectuate this ordinance with the Pinal County Recorder's Office.
Mayor McFarland, I move approval of ordinance number 3173 as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Can I get a roll call vote, please, Gloria?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Cortson.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
I didn't go to high school here, but I think it's a cool sign, and I'm glad we're making national historic.
We'll forgive you.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, the next item is L2. This is, again, a public hearing on an annexation project.
Joe Horn will be making this presentation for you.
Good evening, council members, Mayor. Thanks for letting me follow that item. The city of Casa Grande is requesting an annexation of approximately 740 acres, generally located north of the Maricopa-Casa Grande Highway between Burris Road on the east side and Bianco Road on the west side. You can see it outlined here. We've got 18 parcels, and they're split between 8 owners of those parcels. The general plan designates it primarily as manufacturing and industry, with a portion of it in the neighborhoods category currently. In regards to the phase or the growth areas, primarily it's all in the phase 1 growth area, with just a small portion of it being in the phase 3 growth area. The initial zoning, currently it's in general rural in the county. The initial zoning comparable to that would be the urban ranch. The next steps for this process, you won't take any action on it tonight, it's just a public hearing. Following the 30-day wait period from the recording of the petition, which will happen on December 7th, staff will then obtain signatures. Once we obtain signatures representing at least 50% of the owners, property owners representing 50%, greater than 50% of the value, then the annexation ordinance, infrastructure and service plan, and the initial zoning for the properties will be scheduled for City Council's consideration. And that summarizes my presentation.
Okay. So this is a public hearing. This is on the annexation of 740 acres in item agenda. So we'll open the floor for public comment. This is a public hearing, so if you have anything you'd like to add to this, please step forward. Okay, seeing none, then we'll close the floor and open it for discussion on the dais. Mr. Powell? Oh, public hearing, so there's no comment, no, any questions?
You certainly ask questions.
You have a question?
But it is only a public hearing. There's no action on this.
There's no action, we're not voting on it.
Okay, I was just gonna make a comment, but I don't know if that's appropriate or, I have some friends that own parcels in there, and they're relieved that they're being urban ranch because they didn't want to be industrial. And they were afraid, and I think part of that is industrial and part of it's not.
Correct.
So they don't have to be, and I think Brad, we've talked, and so.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to item L3, another public hearing on an annexation of 3.74 acres.
James Gagliardi will make this presentation.
This is another annexation request for a significantly smaller area than the last public hearing item that you just heard. Now, of course, just like the last item, there's no action taken this evening. It's just a public hearing contemplating the potential annexation for 3.74 acres located just north of the existing city limits and just west along what's known as the Cornman and Hennis Road alignments. Currently, that 3.74 acres is located in the county, and it's designated as general rural. And upon annexation, staff's recommendation would be that this be zoned urban ranch because that's the most equivalent to the general rural zoning. And then just to give you some context, it is abutting the Hennis Road section line. So in terms of future transportation, this property would be well served from that future access. From a general plan context, all of the surrounding area, including this subject parcel to be annexed, is within the city's commerce and business general plan designation. And as far as the steps are concerned, actually back in October, City Council had a work session, you may recall, to discuss interest in this annexation. Back in November, staff filed a blank petition with the county, and that initiated the 30-day wait period in which a public hearing has to be held within that 30 days, which is now. And after this evening, we'll wait until December 7th to obtain signatures, which actually there's just one parcel owner. And we will file a signed petition with the county. And then the two hearings that actually deal with the annexation proper will be scheduled for February 3rd and the second on February 17th. That's when the first and second reading of the annexation ordinance will take place, as well as the discussion of the infrastructure and services plan on February 3rd and the initial zoning to urban ranch. At the February 3rd hearing, staff will ask council to consider approving this annexation and the initial zoning to urban ranch. And that concludes my presentation, and I can transition now to the public hearing.
Okay. All right, for public hearing on item L4, I'm sorry, item L3. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to make comment on this annexation? Okay, seeing none, then I'll close the public hearing. Did council have any questions or anything? No action taken, so any questions? Okay. Then we'll move on to item L4. Another public hearing, and this is regarding resolution number 4360.23.
Mr. Mayor, items L4, L5, and L6 all will pertain to amendments to the general plan, just so you know. And we do have presentations on each, but the first one will be made by James Gagliardi.
So this process occurs every year. Per state requirements, amendments to the general plan can only occur once. And the 2019 amendments, we started taking applications back towards the first of the year, with the deadline being in July, to meet all the various public notification requirements, etc. Regarding this specific general plan amendment to the large mixed-use general plan category, as well as the other amendments that you'll hear tonight, these are the basic steps that have occurred. By state statute, there are to be 2 Planning and Zoning Commission hearings at 2 different locations. That was held on October 17th and November 7th. And basically at the November 7th hearing, Planning Commission did make a recommendation on this specific item that City Council approve the item, and now City Council is considering it this evening, and it would be adopted via resolution. So the specific request at hand with this particular item is an amendment to the large mixed-use general plan category. Large mixed use was established just last year. It's the newest general plan category, and it basically accommodates large areas, and one of the requirements is it has to be zoned PAD, and it has to contain a minimum of 320 acres. But the idea behind it is that it promotes a wide variety of uses, a multi-purpose land use where a variety of commercial, industrial, residential, and varying densities can be approved. As I mentioned, there is a wide variety of appropriate land uses, and the only appropriate zone district is PAD, which any property contemplating a large mixed-use category would have to, of course, seek approval as a PAD zone from City Council. Specifically regarding spatial form and design, the residential area of the PAD, or specifically the project site, can't exceed 50% of the total acreage, and no single land use may exceed 70% of the total acreage. There's only one example of a large mixed-use category, and it's not actually located within the corporate limits of Casa Grande, but it is within our planning area, and that's the Casa site, which is just over 2,300 acres, and that was designated as large mixed-use last year. So currently, and what is bringing me to discuss the amendment with you this evening, is that the density and intensity portion of the large mixed use speaks of the residential density as being either attached or detached, and that's what drives what's allowed in terms of density. So currently it reads, maximum attached residential density shall not exceed 25 dwelling units per acre. And if it's detached, the single family density is not to exceed 6 dwelling units per acre. Now below are various examples of what attached residential product versus detached residential product may look like. Of course, attached residential is your typical apartment complex or even a duplex or townhome, row home concept. And then, of course, detached could be anything like manufactured homes or single-family residential or single-family rental product. Proposed is to, instead of looking at density as whether the residential component is attached versus detached, instead what the proposal is to break it up into 3 different densities, just to promote a more creative mixture of residential use. And so basically, instead of having a maximum attached versus maximum detached, it's broken into 3 different categories: high density residential, medium density residential, and low density residential. Now the high density residential area of the site would be proposed to not to exceed 40 dwelling units per acre. However, it would be limited in utilization of only 20% of the allotted residential area. The medium density residential area would not be allowed to exceed 12 dwelling units per acre, and it would be limited in utilizing 30% of the allotted residential area. And then low density residential shall not exceed 6 dwelling units per acre. And again, the maximum project area dedicated for residential land use is limited to 50%. So what that effectively does with the proposed amendment is it would actually reduce the total number of residential dwelling units. And the following graphics explain how that's achieved. So currently, if you were to have a 320 acre area, which is the minimum size that you could have as a PAD utilizing the large mixed use category, you would be allowed to use up to 50% of that for residential land use. So that would be 160 acres. And should that be approved, you could use, with the approval of council, 160 acres to be attached residential, which would, at 25 dwelling units per acre, yield 4,000 dwelling units within that 160 acres. Now, the most minimum you could go, per se, if you were to utilize a detached residential concept on the 160 acres, is 960 detached units. What the proposed amendment would do is actually result in much fewer total dwelling units. It would go from 4,000 to 2,336. And the reason is because even though there's an area where you're allowed to go up to 40 dwelling units per acre, it's only limited to 20% of the residential area. And so that would only yield 1,280 units. The medium density residential area would be limited to 30% of the project site that's allocated for residential, so that would yield 576 units. And then the remainder would be at low density residential of 6 dwelling units per acre, which would yield 480 units. Now, part of the discussion of density is what exactly does it look like? Because 40 dwelling units is sort of hard to wrap one's head around, and it could take a variety of many forms. It's not necessarily captured in just tall buildings. You can have it be, for example, on the top left picture, a 5-story building that achieves a 40 dwelling unit per acre, should that concept be spread about on a campus of similarly sized buildings. You could also have a townhome project like on the bottom right, where those units are probably 3 stories, but just the specific layout promotes a higher density. Now, medium density residential, which would be up to 12 dwelling units per acre, is not only attached product, as you see in the right picture with the townhome, but you could also have single family rental where it is detached. And the 12 dwelling unit per acre mid density concept really speaks to what's known as the missing middle, which tends to be lacking in the community. And what the missing middle is there's plenty of single family residential, which is sort of perceived as low density. And then there's also some multifamily, which is sort of falls into that high density category. But what the missing middle is that spot of 12 dwelling units per acre where people maybe have transitioned from living in apartments, but they're not quite yet ready to live on single family residential plots of large sizes. But this is right in between where it is at that density of about 12 dwelling units per acre. And then, of course, the low-density residential portion up to 6 dwelling units per acre is already currently allowed, and it provides basically your standard single-family residential development. Now, in terms of what is required to review general plan amendments, there's some specific requirements, some specific review criteria that have been evaluated and has been provided in the staff memos. Staff feels that all 12 of these have been addressed with this amendment. At its second public hearing, Planning Commission forwarded a recommendation to City Council to approve DSA 190074, this amendment to the large mixed use. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, this is a public hearing. This will require some action, however. So I'm going to open the public hearing portion first to ask the public if there is any comment on item L4. Okay. Seeing none, then I'll close the public hearing and ask the council if you have any questions of Mr. Gagliardi on this subject. Bob?
How did we get here? Was this to address a problem that came up? Was it external, internal? I'm just curious.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Huddleston, reason why we arrived here to this, we realized that though the large mixed use category provided a lot of flexibility, it sort of left a gap in terms of how to apply single family rental product specifically. Because single-family rental product tends to have a higher density than 6 dwelling units per acre, but nowhere near as much as 25 dwelling units per acre. So we felt that instead of looking at residential as attached versus detached, it would just open the doors for some more flexible options from a residential product-wise to instead look at it as 3 different densities, and so that we could get something like single-family rental that is a little bit more dense than your single-family product traditionally, but not as dense as your high density.
Okay, and is it strictly focused at large mixed use or does this carry over into PADs and such?
So right now, this would only apply to general plan areas designated as large mixed use.
Which we only have one.
And right now, we currently only have one large mixed use category.
Okay.
Actually, the next item on the agenda is the proposal to take another area currently designated commerce and business and so designated as large mixed use. But the component of that is not only do you have to have that general plan category of large mixed use, but then the property has to be so zoned as a PAD with this specific density proposal that City Council would have the option of weighing whether or not the mixture of residential is something that could be supported.
Thank you.
Matt?
And thank you for doing that with the overall density and showing how it is actually lower for the overall project with this. Also, an interesting concept is that, you know, I've talked to a lot of people and they talk about affordable housing. And I question, well, is it the city's job to provide affordable housing? We can't provide affordable housing because we're not home builders, but we can do this zoning to help people provide affordable housing and different housing options for different people that are coming to our community. And there's a lot of areas that have done this, I think, in the Phoenix area and everything, where they have a mix of commerce, a mix of these different densities, and people are flocking to those type of areas now. But again, if you look at the overall density of the entire project, it's lower than what we have now, correct?
Correct.
So we have less dwelling units per acre overall. And again, tonight, we're not approving any of these type of concepts or any specific plans. We're just making this to where the zoning could be, you know, this, or it can be, you know, a lot of different things. So we're not specifically approving that these are going to be 5-story apartments on that 20% or anything like that. This just gives the ability to move forward with the zoning.
Correct. And if I can just slightly elaborate on that, is whenever there's a rezoning proposal, the very first question is it in compliance with the general plan? So whatever the PAD proposal may be, we have to turn to the general plan. And if it's in that large mixed-use category, then it gets them in the door to ask the question. But council would still have to contemplate what the specific PAD is and whether or not it's supportable.
Lisa?
And I'm going to piggyback on what Matt, because Matt and I talked about this earlier. But, you know, I just came from the National League Conference, and this is an issue that's, you know, people are facing across the country. And so I really appreciate you guys getting creative on the variety of residential products that are out there and going to be available. You know, affordable housing, I mean, it's really workforce housing. You know, people, they're saying that, you know, incomes aren't going up to the same level as, you know, housing costs. And so there's a lot of people that really can't afford single-family homes. I mean, we would love for that to happen, but they can't. So I think that we, as our community continues to grow, we have these jobs coming in, companies coming in, we need to be a little bit more creative and offer some, you know, additional housing products. So I was really excited to see this. It's something when I went to the national conference, many cities are doing this. And so I was happy to see that we're on top of it too. And I look forward to seeing what happens in the future.
You know, like someone said, you know, you can't tell developers what to build or builders what to build, but by doing zoning like this, and again, I hear it time and time again, what cities can do is we can encourage builders to build single-family rentals, and that through these types of zoning. And so I see our role is to be able to do that and to, again, encourage those builders to do that.
Any other comments, Mr. Powell?
I just was going to question the requirement that the residential area is not to exceed 50% of the total acreage. And of that, no single land use percent. Is that based on the 50% that can be developed?
Want me to cover that?
Sure.
Mayor McFarland, Councilman Powell, the 70% limitation on any single land use is intent to make sure that the mixed land use category actually has a mixture of land uses, that nothing it consumes, like, you know, commercial is 90%, right? We actually want to require a mixing of the land uses. So the 70% is of the whole 600 and the whole project area, which
320.
minimum's 320. So 70% of the project area can be a single land use, not residential, however. Residential is limited to 50, but commercial could be 70, industrial could be 70. Does that answer your question?
Well, I'm still a little confused. Requirement that the residential area is not to exceed 50% of the total acreage, period, right, on any kind of residential?
Correct.
Okay. And of that, then 70% of the total acreage?
No, those are actually happen to be two separate rules. One rule is for the large mixed-use project, the residential uses cannot exceed 50%. Now, that could be any kind of residential. Single family, could be, there's various residential that could be done in that 50% rule. But no single land use can exceed 70% other than residential. Residential is limited to 50. Commercial, industrial is limited to 70%.
Okay, so the whole thing would be 70%.
The whole thing is 70 of non-residential land uses. Residential is limited to only 50.
You know, it's new. It's worth a try. What you find out so often is affordable is not affordable. When it gets built, the prices really aren't affordable housing, but maybe they can be. I don't know. And we've only got one right now. Tessa does not comply because they're in the county. So Tessa's not part of it right now. It's the one on the Walton property.
That's coming up next.
Is the next one that's looking at doing that. Right. So.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I think I got an answer.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Seeing none, then I'll ask for a resolution number, please, Gloria.
Resolution number 4360.23, a resolution of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending the City of Casa Grande General Plan 2020, adopted by resolution number 44360, and subsequent amendments thereto by making certain tax amendments to the City of Casa Grande General Plan 2020.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, as I do every year when we deal with major general plan amendments, because it is a little different voting requirement for you, I simply want to remind you that any general plan amendment, a major general plan amendment to pass, does require a 2/3 majority, which means you'll need at least 5 votes to pass any plan amendment.
Okay. Thank you, Brett. All right.
Mayor McFarland, I move for the adoption of resolution number 4360.23 as presented.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Fingers crossed, yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right. Item L5, that is also a public hearing on resolution number 4.24. Mr. Tice?
James will handle this one as well. Thank you.
This is the last you'll be hearing from me this evening. So this is specifically an amendment to the general plan area that affects the Casa Grande Commons planned area development. I had gone through the steps on the previous slide, or previous presentation, but basically this item as well had 2 planning commission hearings, and now we're at the city council consideration for the resolution. So Casa Grande Commons PAD is in a very prominent location directly east of I-10. It's bounded by Courtson Road to the north, and then basically Promenade Mall to the south and Florence Boulevard. Currently, the general plan designations for this property has it placed in 2 different general plan designations. The majority of it is within commerce and business, and then there's a 50-acre portion that's located within the neighborhoods category. Now, commerce and business, although it's appropriate for this area because it is next to the interstate, and that's an area where you would want to promote a mixture of commercial and business general plan uses. The interesting nuance about this category is it does not allow residential if in a PAD. And given that this is in a PAD zone, should these applicants request a PAD amendment to add residential within the area currently designated commerce and business, they would not be allowed to do that by the limitations of the commerce and business land use designation. So the proposal is to take just under 489 acres that's currently designated as commerce and business and instead propose it as large mixed use. And staff finds that this land use category is also very appropriate because of its location next to I-10, and also given the fact that it's adjacent to Florence Boulevard's interchange with I-10 and the future interchange at Courtson and I-10. To promote this area to be a mixture of different uses, not only commercial and light industrial, but also a mixture of different residential types. Now, under the large mixed use, the following are appropriate uses: residential, commercial, industrial, as well as educational facilities and major entertainment facilities. And again, the appropriate zoning is planned area development. And so this evening, what City Council would be contemplating is just basically changing the designation of the general plan, but again, the applicant would have to come forward through a future PAD amendment to propose any change to the mixture of allowed uses within that area, should they want to introduce a mixture of residential. Given that you had just approved the amendment to the large mixed-use category, basically what they would be afforded to do is propose a PAD amendment, given that, assuming that this does get designated as large mixed-use, with a mixture of residential within 50% of that area. The types of mixtures of uses that you could see with the residential component are displayed on the screen here to the right. You can either have a concept where you have retail and business on the bottom with residential on the upper floors, or you could have a land use that is strictly residential, like on the bottom left or bottom middle picture, or you can propose single-family rental, where it's basically detached product. Should this be approved, this would be the second large mixed-use general plan category within the Casa Grande planning area, and the only one within the corporate city limits for now. In terms of the review criteria, the staff report did provide justification. The applicant also provided a very detailed analysis of how these various criteria have been met. We followed the notification procedures prescribed by ARS, and at its second public hearing, Planning Commission forwarded a recommendation to City Council to approve the general plan amendment for Casa Grande Commons. And that concludes my portion of the presentation.
Any questions, Mr. Powell?
Paul, looking at the PAD standards, we have them in place and we understand them pretty well. This is outside of the current one PAD standards as far as what they're doing with the law use.
Go back to the slide that has the three.
For instance, any lots under a certain size, you have to have others that are twice as big, and those type of things that have been common to our PAD program. Does that apply with this zoning, or is this just because it's so big and it's restricted in some ways, it's a separate PAD zoning somehow?
Mayor McFarland, Councilman Powell. So the answer is, first off, this is a general plan amendment. It's not zoning. But if this property was granted this general plan category, and if they came back with a amended PAD in the future, they introduced residential in some of these categories that are on the screen, they would be subject to the PAD residential design guidelines.
You made my day.
Matt?
Again, I think this is a great place to start with this, and I want to thank Councilwoman Fitzgibbons for going to the conference in Texas, for educating me today. So thank you very much, and sharing your knowledge and also my concerns with what do we do as a city for. I like workforce housing better, actually, because we don't build houses as a city. We can encourage this. But then I was thinking of places I visited where they have, like shops with apartments above, nice streets, entertainment districts, and by our mall that we have now, it's a perfect place to do it. So I think it's a great place to try it out and see what we can do, what the developer can do.
The PAD on this property doesn't allow residential, and so the new classification would, correct?
Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Huddleston, they would have to propose a PAD amendment to introduce the residential.
Okay.
But in that PAD amendment, the first question we'd ask is it in compliance with the general plan? If the general plan designation does not change and it remains as commerce and business, we would tell them no, they cannot introduce residential in that area designated as commerce and business.
Okay.
If the general plan amendment does get approved and it's in the large mixed use category, they would be allowed to propose residential, be it whether they proposed attached, detached, low, medium, high, residential.
And my question is kind of off the wall. I don't know if it really pertains to anything, but if residential is approved in that area, the far northeast corner of that property is getting very close to an operating dairy. Does that pose issues for us at some point? And if so, when and if do we have to address that?
So interestingly, there's a lot of property further to the east that's within residential PADs that are currently operating as dairies, but they have a single-family residential PAD zoning on them.
Okay.
So specifically in those situations, but then also specifically with regard to your question, we would have to evaluate that at the time of the zoning proposal to maybe introduce ways to mitigate that impact. And it is difficult to achieve that use-to-use compatibility next to a dairy farm, but there are probably certain measures that could be suggested or implemented between staff and the applicant to provide some better compatibility measures.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, then I'll entertain a resolution number, please.
Resolution number 4360.24, a resolution of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending the City of Casa Grande General Plan 2020, adopted by resolution number 4360, and subsequent amendments thereto, by changing the land use designation on property located south of Courtson Road, east of Interstate 10, north of the Promenade Mall, west of Mission Parkway, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mayor McFarland, I would move for the passage of resolution number 4360.24 as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Can I get a roll call vote, please, Gloria?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes?
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Courtson.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right. Next item is L6. This is also a public hearing. Consider resolution number 4360.25.
This would be the last of our public hearing amendments, and Joe Horn is going to cover this one for you.
Mayor and council members, that one's a little easier to follow than the last one. Gamage and Burnham is requesting approval of a general plan amendment from the general plan land use category of agriculture to manufacturing and industry. The site is generally located between Bianco Road and Burris Road and south of Maricopa, or from Maricopa Casa Grande Highway down to Clayton or Cottonwood Lane. The request includes approximately, and there's a correction to this, it's approximately 1,064 acres. During the title search and the legal description, there was an error discovered in the legal description that was excluding Cowtown Road. So it's actually 1,064 acres. It was notified correctly though still. So all adjoining property owners did get the correct information, and the actual exhibit of the site was correct. So although this property is not located within the city limits, this application is being considered by the city because the property is located within our planning area. The request is intended to create consistency between the envisioned use of the property and the general plan land use category. There's also a possibility that the city of Casa Grande will eventually annex this property as well. So the current general plan category here is shown as agriculture, moving to manufacturing and industry. You can see that coincides well with our existing manufacturing and industry area, as we're trying to create a little bit of an industrial corridor on that side. The general plan review criteria is listed here. It was covered all in your staff report. We'll cover a couple of key issues with this presentation. The first one is how the proposed amendment furthers smart growth principles. One of those smart growth principles is to strengthen and direct development towards existing communities. In this particular instance, the proposed amendment will direct more manufacturing and industry development towards similar uses, such as the Frito-Lay and the Abbott Nutrition facilities, and again, extending and connecting that Casa Grande industrial corridor that we're looking to create. So staff has been working on that corridor, and you see it fits in well here, and this is a logical expansion of the industrial corridor. You can kind of see it there shown. The second general plan review criteria we'll cover is how the proposed amendment enhances or has no net impact on the rural character of the city. So we do have a general plan land use strategy stating that to discourage amendments to the land use map resulting in the elimination of more than 3% of the total net acres of land respectively designated on the land use map as agriculture or rural. This particular proposal results in a 3.8% reduction in the agricultural category and a 1.5% of the combined agriculture and rural categories. It does increase the manufacturing and industry land use category by approximately 1%. The next criteria is describe how the proposed amendment results in the creation of jobs for Casa Grande residents. The designation of the site for industrial development will attract employers who will create additional jobs for the Casa Grande residents, and I believe that the council members have been briefed on potential projects for this site. Our public hearing notification efforts for this request met or exceeded all the requirements set out. We did not receive any inquiries or any comments. The Planning Commission on a 6-0 vote recommends that City Council approve DSA 19-00072, a major general plan amendment to change the land use from agriculture to manufacturing and industry. And back to you guys. That concludes it.
Okay, well, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to, for public comment at this time, this is on item number L6. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak on this matter? Okay. Seeing none, then I'm going to close the public hearing, and does council have some questions? I think I saw Mr. Powell's hand raised.
I just wanted to state, and I think Kirk had assured me that where the horse properties are located, this is north of them, and it doesn't interfere with their ability to enjoy the acreage they've had out there for quite a long time. And along Clayton Road, there's several there. And Kirk, I'm glad that you went out and checked on that with them. That made them feel a lot better.
Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, then I'll ask for a resolution number, please.
Resolution number 4360.25, a resolution of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending the city of Casa Grande General Plan 2020, adopted by resolution number 4360, and subsequent amendments thereto by change designation on property located south of the Casa Grande Maricopa Highway between Bianco and Barris Road, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mayor McFarland, I move approval of resolution number 4360.25 as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Cortson.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Absolutely.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, the last public hearing for tonight, L7, is a public hearing to consider ordinance number 1178.399. Mr. Tice.
The last of our planning items will be covered by Mr. Horn.
I want to know why you showed up.
Just in case they need me.
He's like the MC there.
You're the MC of the planning department, okay.
All right, so this will be my last item tonight, too. So the city of Casa Grande is requesting a zone change for 21 acres within the Donovan M. Kramer Airport Industrial Park from garden and light industrial, I-1, and urban ranch to general industrial with a condition of record. You can see the location of the site here. Most of the acres and parcels are owned by the city. There are 2 that are currently owned by Sunland Welding, and they have consented to this zone change. The purpose of this request is to make the parcels more marketable and facilitate the development of the airport industrial park. Staff has eliminated some permitted and conditional uses to ensure compatibility with the existing users and comply with the vision within the airport industrial park. Existing zoning shown there, proposed zoning to I-2. And within the general plan, it's all located within the manufacturing industry general plan category. The review criteria basically outlines that the proposed use shall be in conformance with the general plan. Staff has found that that is in conformance with the general plan. Just to kind of cover what eliminated uses we did eliminate from the use table, you can see them listed here. They're auto dismantling, junkyards, meat packing, oil refineries, fertilizer manufacturer that we don't see as a good fit with the airport industrial park uses. So the public hearing notification efforts met or exceeded all city requirements. We did also meet with the Airport Design Review Committee who did support this change. We did not receive any comments in regards to that public notification. So Planning Commission on a 6-0 vote recommends that City Council approve the zone change request, DSA 19-00133, from garden and light industrial and urban ranch to general industrial with the condition of record as stated in the ordinance. And that concludes the presentation.
Lisa?
Just a comment, just thanking the Planning and Zoning Commission. I know we have one member here, but it seems like they were pretty busy.
Yeah.
They're dealing with all of this, so appreciate all that and staff going through all of it.
Any other questions or comments? Oh, this is a public hearing. Let me throw open the public hearing. The floor is open for anyone who'd like to make a comment on this particular zoning change. Okay, well, seeing none, then I'm going to close the public hearing. And are there any other questions or comments from the City Council?
I just have a question. Will there be attention paid to who you let go out there with I-2 producing a lot of smoke or haze or like that, that would not be a very healthy neighbor to the airport.
So, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Powell, a couple things. One is with those uses that we have eliminated, we think we've eliminated all the kinds of uses that might
That would have that.
create those kinds of characteristics. But we have another level of insurance, which is that any use that might want to go in, when they propose their major site plan, they're required to go to the Airport Industrial Design Review Committee to have their major site plan approved. And that committee looks at whether or not that use really is compatible with the other uses within the Airport Industrial Park.
Very good, thank you.
Any other questions or comment? Okay, seeing none, then I'll call for an ordinance number, please. Gloria?
Ordinance number 1178.399, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending zoning ordinance number 1178 and its subsequent amendments by changing the zoning from garden and light industrial and urban ranch to general industrial located in Phase 3 of the Airport Industrial Park, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mayor McFarland, I move approval of ordinance number 1178.399 as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Quartson.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, well, that concludes the public hearings for tonight. The next item on the agenda is our the reports.
We do not have an executive.
Yay.
Yeah, executive session.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start over here with you, Bob. You want to go first?
Well, just two things. One, the Lucid event today, we were all so honored to be there. Great addition to our community, and Mayor, as always, you did a great job. Also, the volunteer dinner was right after the council meeting last time, wasn't it? Or the next day?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, really enjoyed that. The city did a great job of putting on a nice event for our volunteers. A special thanks to all the volunteers who serve on the boards and commissions. Do a fantastic job. As Lisa pointed out, the Planning Commission was busy this past week, so we couldn't live without them. That's it.
Matt?
Just excited that it's already December and we've got our beautiful Christmas light poles and looks like our tree's growing nicely out front, so hopefully be done by Saturday. And I'm glad to have my friend Mary back.
I know.
I'm glad to have you back, Mary.
Yes.
We missed you.
Thank you.
And I also want to thank the neat thing today, I won't mention it all, Brett, but I can say the governor of Arizona and the governor of Sonora, Mexico were in town celebrating new partnerships for a neat thing that's happening in Casa Grande. So I didn't do it, Brett, see?
Mr. Powell?
Well, I concur with
Oh, you can say it.
with feeling of success that you reached as you sat there and watched these things happen, and they're really going to build there, and we're going to have them, and they've had that beautiful car that I was hoping they'd raffle off. As I say, they're a tremendous asset to our community, and they want to be here, and they demonstrate that, the way they work with us, and our mayor, when he runs for governor, is getting some good experience.
Yeah.
Also, I went to the State of the State at the Morrison Institute, and that's always very interesting. It's based on rural. And they feel like, sometimes that we're the people out in the hinterlands. And so I told them I got a chance to speak, and I said, I want to tell you, I'm in my 22nd year as a councilman, And when I started, the town was about 19,000 people. Now it's kicking 60. But we like Casa Grande, and I said we had a facilitator that came in and wanted to make us Phoenix, and we don't want to be Phoenix. And in fact, I feel sorry for everybody in this room that has to live in Phoenix. And that got a good laugh. But as I say, I think that we also, Larry and I, had a really good experience. And Tony Ibarra, who's the president of the Sheriff's Posse, we had 9, was it 9 that came up? We had 9 people from the Tohono O'odham committee down there, and they came up to look at our facility, and we walked them through everything, and if it comes to dollars and cents, Larry could kick it off the top of his head and tell them what it cost or what this or that was. And then we had a really good Mexican food lunch, and everybody left happy. I saw him the next day in Ricardo's.
Oh, yeah.
That was at Ochoa's, but so anyway, as I say, it was really nice. The Native American monies that allow all these kind of things to happen, we need to appreciate. And Odomtosh was started only to say thank you, to host an event to say thank you to our Native American neighbors. Don't know anybody in the state of Arizona other than us that do that. So pretty proud, and as I say, it turned out good. And again, today was one not to forget.
Absolutely. Donna?
A couple things. The mayor and I both attended the Lancola Thanksgiving dinner and helped serve a couple days before Thanksgiving. Community Services, amazing job, and there was so many people that walked out of there with full bellies and happy, and it was just a really great way to kick off the holiday season, so that was great. Bob had mentioned the Boards and Commissions dinner, always a good thing. Reminder, small business, Shop Local was downtown this weekend for Shop Local Saturday, and it was nice to see people going in and out of the businesses. And then I think it was Matt and I that attended the Historic Preservation Commission meeting a week ago, and they did a junior storyteller. Colt Calloway was his name, and I gave you all a copy of his little speech. And if, for those of you that know Judge Bill O'Neill and his family, this little guy is a grandson to one of them, and he was quite the character, and I see good things.
I was going to say.
I see good things happening for him, so he did a great job. And then, of course, the parade is this weekend, and so get your chairs out early, so that's it.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've been out of operation for a few weeks, so I really don't have anything to report. But I really want to thank everyone for their well wishes during my recovery. I still have some therapy to complete over the next few weeks and that, but hopefully I'll fully recover. And again, I really appreciate everybody's kind words and offers and that, so.
Welcome back.
Yeah,
We're glad
thank
you're
you.
back.
Thank you.
Lisa?
And I just wanted to, as I mentioned earlier, I was at the National League of City Detail. I have so much to talk about. I have a lot of notes, Larry. Larry loves when we go. Yes, we have set up a meeting. But bottom line, I mean, you know, when you go to these things, it's always good to go to kind of see where we stand, you know, nationally. And of course, many of the issues and topics are very similar to what we're going through. So it's good to see that we're on top of things and we're moving forward. But then, of course, there's things that we can work on to improve. But some of the topics and sessions I went to is the first one was smart cities and how apps are changing community engagement and how much people want to interact with the city. And, you know, with our new See, Click, Fix, I always get that mixed up. I think that's a great way, but of course there's other products out there that only enhance that and get, you know, people to get more engaged. You know, they have house watches, things that are being built in the community. I don't know how often you guys get a call, what's being built on, you know, this corner or whatever. So, you know, local events, volunteering. I know we all turn to John McGuire, but you know, there are other products that would only enhance this one because someone brought it up, one of the other cities that had it. So I think, you know, we all know how people have those phones and they're going to those apps. And I think we just need to kind of keep on top of it and how we can get involved and, kind of put our strategy together of what, when we want to introduce different programs, but I think, we definitely have a start there. Of course, housing. Housing is huge all over the country. Workforce housing, housing affordability. People want to live in an affordable place to call home. And, there's, different things that cities are doing. Of course, the mayor, the homeless task force kind of introduced a committee, but there are cities that actually have task force. And even though our, planning department is doing a great job, coming up with creative solutions, but to get, maybe get the community engaged a little more. Planning and zoning is great, people that come, but, try to get, real estate developers and maybe have a task force. Even though you have a little bit of a committee, maybe it's something that we want to do in the future. But that was a huge one, of course, all over the country. The apartment demand, it's huge. They're saying that they have to build, or we in the country need to build 4.1 million apartment units by the year of 2030 to meet the demands of apartments. And so it's huge. And it was nice because on the panel there were some of these large apartment complex people, managers, and they were talking about evictions because there was a lot of homeless issues, and evictions many times turn into homeless. And so it was nice to have those people at the table and what they're doing to try to eliminate evictions. And so I think that's something that we should really, look at with the apartment complexes. So a lot of stuff with that. And then homelessness and mental health was huge. Again, I'm glad to see that we're taking a step forward, but there's so much to do on this issue, and not only mental health, but just public health in general. And I know we concentrate on homelessness, but there's, with substance abuse, opioids, everything else, it's really, we might want to expand that to public health instead of just homelessness, because there's so much that goes into that category. But there's cities that have actual crisis centers. San Antonio actually has an office of human services, and they actually have caseworkers with the city. I know that's not, something that we would do, but there are cities, and San Antonio is a city that's trying to prevent, turning into an LA, a San Diego, where there's so many homeless people. So they're doing a great job in diverting and preventing the crisis. And they did talk about the police officers are on the front line, and we need to work with the police department. And I know our homeless committee is working with the police department to try to give them some of the resources they need. We're trying to give them gift cards and, to local restaurants and hotels for the police officers to use when they're out on the streets. Okay, really quick. Okay, developing the workforce, of course. I know. I just want to tell you because it was a great conference. Workforce development. We talk so much about educating our workforce and education and certifications. But one thing, and I know I brought it up in another meeting. One thing that I know these resources are here, is the early childhood daycare, the development, because as we get more people that are moving to the community, they need quality childcare. And so we need to be on top of that because companies are recruiting people, and they need to make sure that they have those resources available. And we have some great resources here, but I think we as a city, and I believe I brought it up at a couple of meetings ago, that 0 to 3 is something that we probably need to incorporate into developing workforce and those resources. And then another one really quick, and that's the last one, is downtown development. Of course, it's one that we all go to every time we go because we want to see what we can do here. But, the key points, of course, are, things that are successful is, an arts incubator, which, we have the Black Box and the sign park, shared spaces, outdoor amphitheaters, and places to stay, which, hotel. I know we've been talking about bringing a hotel or whatever. So those were just some of the key points. So those are a few things. Sorry I talked so fast, but I thought it was, it was great, and I'd be happy to share any other information with you all, and I'll be sitting with Larry and try to incorporate some of this when we do our strategic planning, because I think we can add a few things into what we have, our focus areas.
Absolutely.
So that's it. And then in Lucid, it's a project that has gone on for so many years, and everyone on this council, of course, has worked hard. Our staff, I mean, my goodness, I know it has been a long road, but I did want to, there's people before, all of us here, Mayor Jackson and Carl Montoya and Ralph Varela that contributed also. And when we were out there today, it was, it's just, you just feel so good about all the work together to bring something like this to the community. So just so thanks to everyone. Okay, sorry, Mayor.
We'll time you next time.
3 minutes?
I'm putting you on the clock. You're on the clock. Well, just, and I promise I won't take too long, but I just wanted to wish everybody, I hope they all had a great Thanksgiving. I also want to thank Donna for her service the last year. She's done a really great job being our Mayor Pro Tem, Donna, so thank you very much. And of course, welcome Mary back, and Lisa, congratulations on your new appointment.
Thank you.
You have big shoes to follow.
I know.
Yeah.
We did have a good meeting today with these guys, so I didn't say it twice, but it was really exciting to be out there. It was great to see Governor Ducey and Governor Pavlovich from Sonora, Mexico. She's very, very gracious lady. And then, of course, the Peter show with the CEO and their VPs. But it was good, and thank you all for being out there. I know the council was there in force, so that was good. And Larry, to you and staff, I mean, we can't say enough for all the work that you all have done on that project, and to watch it kind of happen today. It was pretty exciting. So thank you. And please, I mean, to everybody who's worked on it, and I know that you put in thousands and thousands of hours on it, so.
Yeah.
Some of the interesting things, yeah. We do have an Arizona water ribbon cutting this Friday. It's out at the Robeson Ranch, if anybody would like to attend. Mission Royale. Did I say Robeson?
Yeah.
Mission Royale, sorry. It says Robeson on my sheet, so I put the wrong location. I know where it is, though. Anyway, we'll be out there, and then I'm also with Arizona Water tomorrow. We're actually going to do a tour of the CAP canal, which should be pretty exciting because they have a new recharge station that they're building out in Coolidge that they're going to be pulling CAP water out of to recharge groundwater. So that'll be an interesting event. And then we also have our Realtor Roundtable event this Thursday at the Community Center. Fernando will be putting that on. That's at 1:30. It's the Realtor Professionals Roundtable, where we get together with all the realtors and the professionals in the real estate business and talk about economic development, housings, apartments, some of the things that Lisa brought up. We talk about that. And then I know the holidays are coming up, so I want to wish everybody happy holidays. There's some great information that we're going to try and get out in terms of some of the economic impact of our industrial industry, which most of the citizens of Casa Grande have no idea about. But think of this number: the economic output of the 24 industrial industry that we have here in Casa Grande is $1.83 billion in economic impact to the state of Arizona and the county and the city. So it's a huge, huge number. It's 6,623 jobs. Now add another 2,200 jobs from Lucid. It's huge. So I can't tell you how important those numbers are and how big they are when you consider that just the state manufacturing number is about 4.8 billion. So some interesting numbers. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Have a great week. And we'll see you in about a couple weeks. All right. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.